We're going to take a trip down memory lane. It's wonderful when we bring back those lovely feelings, particularly when we can say, I was only a little girl when all this happened. If only we could turn back time. Our very own committee member, Robert Allen, will be leading the talk today. He has brought wonderful passion and new renewal to our society. He is a historian, he writes, he tells stories. He studied journalism, history and government at the University of Queensland, and he's held a variety of policy and media advisor positions. But apart from all that, he's just a nice guy and knows what we like to hear when we look back and reminisce and learn lessons from the past. Robert has put together a wonderful talk to us today, and we know that he has our local area very much in his sights, as he's been a local for many years. I've also heard he has 3 children and a cat called Thomas O'Malley. So let's welcome Robert Allen to the lectern.
But today's talk came about because I've actually got a fascination with neon signs. And just a little ad, there's going to be an exhibition of neon signs at the State Library starting on the 6th of December. And it will feature a number of well-known Brisbane neon signs that were made and repaired and collected by a good friend of mine. So I'd recommend you get down there. It's going to be going till, I think, sometime in February. So, you'll be familiar with a lot of the slides that I'll show today, but some of them will be new to you. And I'll also, towards the end, take a slight detour to talk about someone that Graham and Rosalinda Pike told me about recently, a fellow I'd never heard of, but has a very strong connection with the Valley. So, there's lots of Christmas-related themes you could discuss, and this is one example. I think these are great. These are ads for the Brisbane GPO from the 1950s, where they're telling you to get in, post early. There's a description there about how I think it was called OTC, wasn't it, when you used to have to ring overseas and you had to book a call. Am I remembering that right? And I think you had the 3-minute pips. And now, I mean, compared to letters, I heard today they said that something like only 3% of Australians post personal mail now. And Australia Post wants to whack up the letter rate again because people just aren't using it. So times have changed. But we could talk about that, but we're not. Today I'm focusing on New Farm, and I'm focusing, particularly on the Valley and a little bit on New Farm Park. Now I've put the dates up the top of these, but does anyone recognise any of these scenes where they might have been taken? What about the first one, the black and white one? Well, that's Brunswick Street, because that's the Prince Consort in the background, okay? So they're heading west on Brunswick Street. Gives you an idea of the crowds we used to have. The middle one, anyone recognise that? Dunlop Rubber in Ann Street. And the one next to it, you must have recognised that building. Yep, and that's been various things. RAC had it. I think Hallows might own it these days, Old Hallows. But of course, it was built as the administration headquarters for Queensland Breweries in the 30s, Art Deco. So that's where that is. And the bottom ones, you'll probably guess where they were again in the Valley, 1973 and 1974. So of course, you can't talk about Valley and Christmas decorations without talking about the shops that were there. I'll build up to the big one, and you'll probably be able to guess which one that is. It starts with M. But we'll start with Coles. So Coles had a go. So that's some illustrations of a couple of photos from about 1960. Walton's. Now Walton's had a go as well, and they did pretty well, especially when you see it in a streetscape, looking towards McWhirter's and looking towards TC Byrne. So they had a pretty good go as well. Then of course TC Byrne, they were big on the decorations as well. I have a theory that because it was run by a good Catholic, they had a bit more of a religious theme for their windows. So that's TC Byrne. And of course the big one, McWhirter's. This is an ad, you probably can't see all the detail on that, but it was an ad from 1951, and it just talked about all the things that they offered in the lead up to Christmas. It sounds like it, well, I know they did. Staff would spend months putting the displays together. And everyone came from far and wide, of course, to see the McWhirter's displays. So there's some early photos from the 1950s. Go back. From the 1950s. Again, crowds of people, crowds of kids. I imagine it was something they looked forward to all year. And then a bit later on, there's a series of photos taken, what are the years there? From 1955. I think the 50s and 60s was sort of the heyday, weren't they, of the displays? It was before my time, but that's what I've been told. And then through to the last slide there, of course, is after McWhirter's became Myer. So that last photo was taken in 1970. So again, just gives you an idea of how impressive the displays were. A side trip. There's a couple of interesting photos. One, I read that these were orphans, which is really sad, if it's true. But kids having Christmas lunch during the war. And John Wayne, the actor, was in Brisbane in 1943. A lot of Yanks came over to entertain the troops. And that's a photo taken of him and another fellow at Albion Park in, what does it say, 1943? Just after Christmas. Interestingly, Albion Park, fun fact, Albion Park was the only racetrack that was kept going during the war. All the others were occupied by troops. But Albion Park was going and you could still go and bet there. And here's a slide about New Farm Park. From what I've read, it was a very popular place for company picnics and charities. Plenty of space down there, of course. And again, you can see kids having a great time, and you can see the lineup of toys. I imagine a lot of them were homemade as well. I imagine they gave them their pick, read out their names, and they got to choose a present. But it looks like they were having a great time. And the detour I was going to take today concerns Max Hurley. Has anyone here heard of Max Hurley? Okay, a few of you have, good. I hadn't heard of Max until recently, and it was Graham and Rosalinda Pike that told me about him, and I subsequently did a bit of research, and I'll get to his connection with these displays shortly. Max was born in Melbourne in 1938, and he moved to Brisbane just 4 years later, and he became a set designer, a painter, and a stage and costume designer, and a visual artist. He did a lot over a career of more than 50 years. He worked initially for the ABC and Channel 9 as a set designer, and then he gravitated to the theatre world, and he produced a lot of scenery designs and costume designs for local theatre companies. QPAC Museum actually holds more than 200 of his drawings. He illustrated drawings and set designs for 17 different productions, and QPAC actually had an exhibition of his work last year. And this is where it comes to the link with these slides. Max was also the head of Myer's art studio, and in that context he was responsible for the window designs of Myer's stores throughout Queensland, and particularly the annual Christmas displays in the city and the valley stores. So I looked this week at both the QPAC Museum and the State Library collections, and they do have some beautiful original illustrations of his. And I'll give you an example of some of his stuff. Look at this. Oops, go back. So, Alice in Wonderland, okay? Beautiful display. See if I've got some notes. Now that's undated, but according to the catalogue, it was done for some Myer windows. And this one, Peter Pan costume designs, they were done in 1992, so he was still working, well past middle age. So in 1992 he designed those for the Ballet Theatre of Queensland. It's a sketch he did for a crib, and that's one of those cribs that sort of, the things pop up, if you know what I mean. It's sort of like a 3D thing. So that was done for a window display. That again was undated. Nursery rhymes. And the next one. These Christmas window designs were possibly done around 1974, from what I could tell from the catalogue. I think they're great. So there were captions and then the picture, so the kids could read or have the parents read them the description and then the picture, the display. The last slide I put there is something that I just came across in the collection, just fell out of the box. And it's interesting because it's actually the instructions for when the staff built the display. It talks about, you can't see the whole slide there, but it basically says that the children twitch slightly as they sleep, and what's the last bit? Oh yeah, the angel raises and lowers their arms. So it was basically stage instructions, I think you'd say, to those people who are actually designing the window displays. So I thought Max Hurley, interesting story and one worth telling for those who haven't heard it before. So those are just some of the sources that I use. I want to particularly thank Graham and Rosalinda. Graham and Rosalinda met working at Myer. They met at Myer, which I think is lovely. Graham actually worked with Max Hurley at Myer. So it's great that we've got a society that's got a link, a direct living link with that era, because it is a different era. And Gary Collett, some of you who may follow Facebook pages will be familiar with Gary. He's a good friend of the society, and just is amazing these sources he comes up with. And he helped me track down some of the original images that I use for the presentation today. And I'll just finish with this last one, which I thought was really nice. McWhirter's Father Christmas Norm Kennedy. He's having a well-earned break away from the kids. Christmas 1950. So that's it. I hope that was of some interest. Thank you.
Has anyone got any questions for Robert or any stories they'd like to tell?
I just say it brought back beautiful, beautiful memories of my childhood, and those displays in those big windows you're talking about through the Queen Street and the Valley were just magnificent. And on the McWhirter's building, the Santa, who was electronic, would play the organ, and then he'd turn around and go back to the organ. But I also have extremely fond memories of my mum reading those captions as we moved from window to window. It was really special.
Yeah.
Special times.
Thank you.
And what store was Overells?
Overells. Yeah, sorry, before, yes.
I'm a ring-in from Adelaide, where I spent my childhood. And in Adelaide, we always had the Christmas John Martin's parade. In Brisbane, was there ever a Christmas parade?
Yes.
Well, certainly there was one of those slides shows one. Through the valley, we have lots of displays of parades over the years, Warana and various things. But do we have a Christmas one down George Street, for example, or not? I know Adelaide still have one, and they do it on like very early November. It's like crazy stuff, and half of Adelaide shows up for it. I saw it on the news. So they did have a parade. Yep. Okay. Yeah, there was sort of like a fun fair, wasn't there, on the roof of McWhirter's as well. Yep. Yes, different show with a different theme. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, folks.
Well, I have a little bit of a theory that probably wouldn't stand up to any interrogation, but I'll tell you my theory. TVs weren't in everyone's household. And I go back to Donald Bradman. When Donald Bradman came into bat, there'd be a big highlight in the Courier Mail. He's in. Means he was batting, and in those days you'd bat until you got out. There would be crowds of people who would congregate around the big windows of department stores. So that's the way they knew and could see what was happening around their locality or around Australia. So when we're talking about entertainment and looking at big, beautiful displays in windows, it was the fact that that's the way people were entertained, and people would go to the valley and hop out and do window shopping because it wasn't around anywhere else. And then, of course, shopping changed, TVs became available. As we heard, colour TVs became in existence around, the mid-70s. Everything started to change. And now, of course, you're flat out going to a shop. Everything is going on eBay and other social platforms. So I suppose it had to have changed. But I think it may have something to do with the fact that not everybody had TV, and the supermarkets and the big department stores and their big windows took that part of society. What do you reckon, Robert?
Yeah.
Reckon that's good?
Plus cars and suburban shopping centres. All that happened after the war.
Yes.
People moved out because they didn't want to live in the inner city slums. All the places they want to move back to now. You wanted to get out of it.
Now they're all coming back.
Their kids are.
So I was a child, a baby boomer, and my dad would put 50 cents in per pay packet to the picnic at the end of the year. We thought it was Christmas, literally, because you could just go up and ask for a drink, you could ask for an ice cream, and the ice creams were in those little tiny buckets, and we'd take the soft drink and tip it into the ice cream, and I think you call them spiders now. You'd have chips and you'd have a fabulous time, and it was just never ending. And not everyone had those luxuries in when we were children, but we also had the sack races, two-legged races, wheelbarrow races, flat races, all these particular events, and you get a prize for winning. Well, one year, Dad put hood racks on our car, and I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, we win so many prizes, we've got to be able to take all the prizes home." And I thought that was quite humorous, really, but being one of 6 children, and we were pretty athletic, and my mum used to throw a broom, and I think she got a lot of practice throwing it at us, actually. But also she had nail drives. Remember the nail drive? You had to count how many nails, how many drives you had in, etc. So it was really a very joyous time, but of course the economy caught up and people don't do that anymore. But I do remember something vividly, and it does show concepts of time. I got a present, and I unwrapped it, and it was a black doll. Now, that's pretty rare. And I can remember my mum saying, "Don't say it's black, just it's a doll." But everyone kept on saying, "Oh, it's a black doll." And I thought to myself, that's strange, because we don't open up a gift and say it's a white doll. Oh, it's a white doll. But I thought it was very interesting. So those are the attitudes that actually have changed, and particularly all of the non-political issues of gollywogs and someone being this and whatever. I thought that was pretty interesting as well. But I look back and think life was pretty simple. But when you looked at the joy of Christmas, how it was very, very joyous. And we used to catch the bus into the valley, and no one went into town. That's where all the lawyers worked. Everything stopped in the valley. Do you recall that? We all hopped out and we all had all that fun times. So that's what I recall.